9 rounds. That's how many it took. A man named Roy was working his property fence line in Grizzly country when a sow came out of the brush, ears back, coming straight at him. He drew his 911 and put 3 rounds of 230 grain ball into her neck and shoulder area. The bear kept coming. He moved 5 yards off the trail and fired 3 more into her chest. She kept coming. He moved again and fired 3 more into her front. She dropped. 9 rounds of 45 ACP, 6 of them into vital areas. And the Grizzly absorbed every one of those first 6 and kept charging. Roy lived because he had enough ammunition to fire 9 times and enough composure to keep moving and shooting, while an animal that weighed more than him and his truck combined ran him down. That story should end this debate before it starts. But it doesn't, because the 45 ACP has a reputation that makes people believe things about it that the physics doesn't support. And if you carry one into bear country, thinking that reputation transfers from humans to grizzlies, you are betting your life on a misunderstanding. 45. ACP was designed to stop a man. It does that well, arguably better than any other service cartridge in history. 230 grains of lead at 850 feet per second creates a wound channel in human tissue that is wide, deep, and devastating. The bullet is subsonic, which means it does not crack through the sound barrier. It pushes through flesh like a freight train, instead of punching through it, like a needle. Against a 180-pound human with a thin layer of clothing over skin, over muscle, over rib, the 45 ACP is exactly enough gun. A grizzly bear is not a human. Subscribe. An adult male grizzly weighs between 600 and 800 pounds. Coastal brown bears exceed 1,000. The muscle density across the shoulders, neck, and chest is unlike anything in human anatomy. The hide alone can be over an inch thick. Underneath that is a layer of seasonal fat that can reach 4 inches deep on a bear preparing for hibernation. Then muscle. Then bone. Then the chest cavity where the heart and lungs sit, buried behind a wall of tissue that a 45 ACP was never engineered to cross. A standard 200 to 30 grain 45 ACP hollow point penetrates 18 to 20 inches in bare ballistic gel. That sounds adequate until you account for what a bear puts between the outside of its body and the inside of its chest. Hide, fat, muscle, rib. On a frontal approach, the distance from the surface of the bear's chest to the heart can exceed 20 inches. The bullet has to get through all of it and still have enough energy left to reach something that bleeds. A hollow point makes this worse. A 45 ACP hollow point is designed to expand on impact. That expansion is what makes it lethal against humans. The bullet mushrooms from less than half an inch to over 3/4 of an inch, creating a wider wound channel and dumping energy into tissue. Against a bear, that expansion is a death sentence for the bullet, not the bear. The hollow point opens up in the first few inches of hide and fat, dramatically increasing drag, and the bullet loses velocity and penetration depth before it ever reaches muscle. A 45 ACP hollow point that expands perfectly in a human torso stalls out in a grizzly's chest wall. Forum users on 1911. Forum and Greybeard Outdoors repeat the same advice from experience. Hard cast, flat nose, no expansion. The only 45 ACP loads that have any business being carried in bear country are heavy, non-expanding rounds designed to punch a straight line through tissue without opening up. Buffalo boar loads a 255 grain, hard cast flat nose in plus P that reaches roughly 1,000 feet per second and produces over 500 foot-pounds. That's the 45 ACP's ceiling for bear defense. And even at that ceiling, it's outperformed by standard pressure. 10mm and 357 Magnum loads that reach the same penetration with less effort. Now, the part that makes the 45 problem structural, rather than just ballistic, the skull. A grizzly's forehead is nearly 2 inches of dense bone. The skull is curved and sloped from the brow ridge back towards the braincase. A bullet hitting that slope at anything less than a perpendicular angle will skid along the surface rather than penetrate through it. The steeper the angle, the more likely the bullet deflects. The 45 ACP runs 850 feet per second in standard loads, 1,000 feet per second with the hottest plus P. Compare that to the calibers that have documented skull penetration on grizzlies. The 10mm runs 1250 with hard cast. The 357 Magnum runs 1350 from a 6-inch barrel. The 44 Magnum runs 1250 with 300 grain hard cast. Velocity matters against bone in a way it doesn't matter against soft tissue. A faster bullet concentrates more force on a smaller impact area per unit of time. That concentrated force is what cracks through dense cortical bone. The .45 ACP slow, wide bullet spreads its energy across a larger surface area and delivers it over a longer duration. Against human bone, which is thinner and weaker, that's sufficient. Against 2 inches of grizzly skull designed to absorb impacts from other grizzlies during mating combat, the .45 pushes, it doesn't punch. And pushing against a curved surface means sliding off it. The 9mm at 1150 feet per second actually has a better chance of penetrating a grizzly skull than the .45 at 850 feet per second. Smaller bullet, higher velocity, more concentrated force. The round everyone considers too weak for bears has a physics advantage over the Lord's caliber against the one target that matters most. Subscribe. Now, there's a version of the 45 that changes this math entirely, and nobody carrying a standard 1911 into the woods is running it. The 45 Super. Same case dimensions, hotter powder charge, a supported barrel and a heavier recoil spring turns a standard 45 ACP pistol into a platform pushing 230 grain bullets at 1100 to 1200 feet per second. That's over 600 foot-pounds from a semi-auto. The 45 Super with a 255 grain hardcast at 1100 feet per second would genuinely change the bear defense equation. The velocity crosses the threshold where skull penetration becomes plausible. The bullet weight provides the momentum for deep tissue penetration, and the semi-auto platform gives you more rounds than a revolver. The problem is that almost nobody runs 45 Super. The barrel swap and spring change are not complex, but they require specific knowledge and components. You can't load 45 Super ammunition into a stock 1911 without risking a catastrophic failure. The pressure exceeds what the original barrel and frame were designed for. A forum user on 1911 forum described the .45 Super as potentially turning your pistol into a grenade. The 45 ACP's potential against bears exists. It's real, but it lives in a modification that 99% of 45 ACP carriers have never made and will never make. The gun on your hip right now, loaded with the ammunition you bought at the store, is not a bear defense weapon. It's a human defense weapon being asked to do a job it wasn't built for. Let me put this in perspective. Roy fired 9 rounds into that grizzly. He was carrying ball ammunition, which penetrates deeper than hollow points. He was calm under pressure, placing shots into the chest and frontal area. He did everything right. and the bear ate 6 rounds before the 7th, 8th, and 9th finally accumulated enough tissue damage to bring it down. Roy survived because he's Roy. He had composure, he had room to maneuver. He had 9 rounds and the discipline to use all of them while moving. If that bear had come out of thick brush at 10 yards, instead of giving him space to back up and reposition, the same 9 rounds would have been fired in a fraction of the time with far worse accuracy, and the outcome might have been different. The .45 ACP can kill a grizzly bear. Roy proved it. The math shows it's possible with hard cast loads in +P. The documented cases in the AmmoLand database confirm that .45 ACP pistols have successfully stopped bear encounters. And every single case required more rounds, more time, and more composure than any comparable case with a 10mm or a .44 Magnum. The .45 gets there eventually. The 10mm gets there faster. The .44 Magnum gets there first. And when a grizzly is closing the distance between you and death at 30 miles per hour, eventually is a timeline you might not have. If you carry a .45 ACP and you hike, fish, or hunt where grizzlies live, load it with the hardest, heaviest, non-expanding ammunition you can find, and accept that you are carrying the minimum. Not the recommended, not the ideal, the floor. And if you have the budget for a Glock 20 in 10mm or a Smith & Wesson 629 in .44 Magnum, get one. The .45 ACP earned its reputation against the threats it was designed for. A grizzly bear was never one of them. John Browning designed the cartridge in 1904 because the .38 couldn't stop a Moro warrior. He did not design it because a .45 couldn't stop a grizzly. Those are two different problems, and the second one requires a different answer. The Lord's caliber has limits, and they weigh 800 pounds. Tell me what you'd carry in bear country, and why.